What is up, New York Mets fans? Welcome back to the Mets post-game show with your hosts CP and Rob. After what was an unusual 3.5-hour baseball game, the ups and the downs, we'll get into the X's and O's, but what an electric victory. Sloppy victory, but an electric victory as it turns out for our New York Mets. Thank you all for being here with us on this post-game show. We'll salute the chat here in just a second. We'll spam some W's here in just a second as the Mets even up their record 3-3 on the season, a win in extra innings. Rob, how are we feeling tonight?
I'm not sure. It's definitely an interesting game. It was a roller coaster for sure. We got the W. It wasn't pretty and it was sloppy. That's a perfect word to put it. You just put it in the win column and get the hell out of South Beach because it wasn't pretty. And we were winning, we were losing. Didn't look good. Didn't look. I don't know. I don't even know how to feel, but it's good nonetheless.
You did say on the pregame, if the Mets played a sloppy game and they came out with the series win and the victory that you would take, and that's exactly what happened today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got to be happy with a win, regardless of how ugly it was. It did not look good at all early on, but listen, they pulled it out, and you know what? Maybe this is a little bit of the morale victory that this team needed to kick in the ass. To be quite honest
Absolutely.
with you, and they clearly, when Pete Alonso hit that home run, they clearly kicked it into another gear. And maybe they just need a little kick in the ass. And it started with Pete Alonso having, obviously his best game of a very, very early season. But, it comes down to the pitching. The bullpen still did its job once again. And they still did exactly what we needed them to do. But we got the W, and it's about time we go head home to Queens.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. The off day is tomorrow. Before we get into this game, fully recapping X's and O's, hit the thumbs up on both of our channels. Make sure to subscribe to both my channel and Rob's channel for more post-game streams and pre-game streams and videos all season long regarding our New York Mets. I want to shout out everybody in the chat. It is popping. It is lively. And as always, on these post-game shows after a Mets victory, we know what to do. We spam those W's, ladies and gentlemen. Spam those W's, Mets fans. It's a Mets victory. Let's go. Let's go. We got all the W's. Ugly as hell, but W, 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 W. So many W's in the chat. I definitely appreciate you all being here with us. It means a lot, and it feels good to spam the W's with each and every one of you in the chat. And special salute to John from Pure Adrenaline Sports with the $10 super chat. LFGM, early season big win, and it definitely 100% was a huge win. Make sure to subscribe over to the Pure Adrenaline Sports network over there. Really good streams over there in terms of in-game live streams for our New York Mets, so make sure to subscribe. Where do you want to start? Because I have Danny Young as the winning pitcher, even though he doesn't deserve it. They could give it to Jose Butto, but I think we should honestly start in chronological order from start to finish in this ball game. Rob, what do you assess? Let's start with Clay Holmes, because we need to assess Clay Holmes' second outing of the season. Again, he only goes 4 2/3 innings pitched. I believe he's the only Mets starter so far to not go into the fifth inning, correct? Or did Kodai Senga not? I wasn't paying attention to yesterday's game. Did Kodai Senga get into the fifth?
He did. He did.
Okay, so he's the only one so far. Again, up and down. The command really is what is haunting Clay Holmes early in these starts, right? He's got some pretty sharp breaking pitches, and he definitely has the put away pitches. 6 strikeouts today, which is exactly where I had him placed in the pregame show, around 6 strikeouts. But it just seems like the fastball velocity hasn't been there. But also, more importantly, especially when he was on the mound, the defense for the New York Mets, through and through. I mean, it was all game long. It was basically that they were this game was about who was trying to throw it away to their opponent, right? Who was trying to give this game away to their opponent. The Mets with their defense and the Marlins, right, with the lack of pitching towards the end and also their defense. What did you think about Clay Holmes, honestly? Like, just honest assessment.
Well, what made him very impressive in spring, and I'm not taking spring training numbers, I'm taking it very much with a grain of salt. He was using that new kick change a lot in spring training. He has gone away from that in his first two starts of the year for whatever reason. And Gary Cohen brought that up on the broadcast. So I don't know why he's gone away from it. I think it affects the rest of his pitches because what he's using is his arsenal that he used as a closer or as a bullpen arm. And that's concerning to me. Why isn't he throwing that kick change? Is there something going on that we don't know about that the pitch is hurting him arm wise, and that's why he's not throwing it? I mean, he's throwing it less than 4% in both games. That was his bread and butter in spring training. It was a lethal pitch, and that's why when he added that pitch, he became a possibility. I'm like, he could be a good starter. But going to his arsenal as of pitches that he's used in the bullpen is not impressive. It really isn't, especially when you don't got that adrenaline coming in the ninth inning, and you gotta hold on to that energy for inning to inning to inning. I worried about this prior to the season. Where's his stamina when it comes to this? When he goes through a rough inning, and he threw again, this is the second time in his two starts of the season, he's had a long inning, and Mendoza had a quick trigger in the next inning, just like that. Go back to the Houston game, the third inning, once again, 27 pitches. Today, he threw over 30 pitches in the third inning. The fourth inning, once again, he struggled a little bit with his command. The pitch count got above 80. Mendoza, quick trigger. Now, what the Mets told us when it came to Clay Holmes was that he proved to be the opening day starter. They liked what they seen. I don't know. I told you about the confidence level. I'm not sure how confident they are with Clay Holmes long-term as a starter. They don't have a choice at the moment. But if he's going to get away from that kick change pitch, he's going to be a 4-inning pitcher because his pitches, he relies on his fastball with the adrenaline of being a closer. I don't think his arsenal of pitches that he uses much in a bullpen is going to play an important factor getting into the fifth inning or sixth inning. You're going to have to get it eventually because it turned out we had to use Danny Young to close out a game, and it almost cost us. Luckily, we had Brazaban, and we'll talk about that later. I'm assuming the decision to put Young in over Brazaban first, but overall, because this is why I talk about when it comes to pitchers and why quick triggers. And look, Mendoza had no choice. Holmes didn't have it, and you're trying to win a ball game here. You're trying to win a series, but this is the effect when you need a pitcher, at least one. This is why you need a big time pitcher that can throw 6 innings at least because it helps your bullpen. If Clay Holmes doesn't do that, and it affected the bullpen today because it went through all the bullpen arms, and it almost led to Danny Young almost coughing it up in extra innings because we basically had nobody else. So Clay Holmes needs to be better. He wasn't terrible, but again, he has to be better. The errors didn't help, but he has to be better.
It's just the length of the starts so far, I think is what I think you're assessing and a lot of Mets fans are assessing. But again, I mean, there's some questionable defense that's been played behind him so far, even still. Today, it was the Tyrone Taylor missed ball that you never see Tyrone Taylor, missing that kind of baseball, even with a hard step back. You never see that from Tyrone Taylor. Do you want to say something about that?
If you don't mind me say something, I was in Miami 2 years ago for opening day in 2023. They had the roof open. When the roof is open, and if you have been to Miami with the roof open, the wind is weird because it opens up in a weird angle. It doesn't really open up over the top. It opens up on a weird angle in left field to left center, and the wind whips and it changes directions based on just the way the stadium is built. So you feel the wind. The wind could be hitting you dead in the face, and next thing it could be hitting you in the left part of your ear. And it wasn't the Mets that had problems with the balls. If you feel, Juan Soto had a little bit, he caught the ball, but he had issues catching the ball. It's a weird pop up with the ball up in the air, and the Marlins had issues too with pop ups as well. So it is a weird wind in that stadium when that roof is open, and it's rare.
Right, and that's what Steve Gallups was also talking about
Yeah.
on the broadcast in the middle of the game as well when he was standing up there for about a half an inning. But to go back to your point, I mean, it was that in that defensive play, it was Mark Vientos airmailing one at third base to get the runner home as well. There's just a culmination of a lot of defensive miscues as well. But
Mhm.
to go back to the point of Clay Holmes, that's the beauty of the Clay Holmes signing is that they are committing to, him being in this rotation. But at any point, if they feel like the rotation is okay when Montas and Manaea get back and they get in the groove, I know that we're a long way away from that. Montas has started throwing from 60 feet, which is the great news. Sean Manaea, which isn't the great news, has had a little bit of a setback. Once those guys get fully back and healthy, which could be around June, June time at this point, especially with Sean Manaea in the setback, there's an opportunity if Clay Holmes doesn't get it together as a starting pitcher for him to move back into the bullpen, which we could assume was always an option in the back of the Mets' minds when they signed him, potentially being interested in him being a starter. But also with him, being a starter for the first year in 6-7 years of his career, going back to his Pittsburgh Pirates days, he's going to have an innings limit regardless. So it actually, depending on, it doesn't really matter if he's doing well or not. The Mets could have a certain point this season where they're like, okay, he hits this many innings as a starter, and then we're moving him back to the bullpen. So there's a lot of different ways that the Mets can be going about this and thinking about this, and time will tell. But that's the beauty of the Clay Holmes signing. And I agree with you 100%. He needs to be a little bit more efficient, but I would like to see the defense also just get his back a little bit as well when he is struggling with that command, which he has done. But it is completely on him to get in control of his fastball. And I think that once he does that, because we haven't seen it in the first two starts, then we will see him really hit his stride, especially with the put away pitches. Because again, I know that he hasn't been throwing the kick change, with what you just said, at as high of a clip as we saw, maybe in spring training. He added that pitch basically solely because he understood that he was going to be a starting pitcher. But just his slider, sweeper, whatever you want to call it, has such great movement to it, and it could be such a great put away pitch. He just needs to just set that pitch up with his fastball for strikes.
Yeah, but the issue with that is that when the batter knows that he's not throwing his kick change, there's only two pitches you're looking for is that fastball and that sweeper slider. So you're not fooling anybody when you see him second, third time through the order. That's been the big issue. The second and third times through the order has been a big issue for him. They're laying off the close pitches that he probably would have came in the eighth and ninth. They maybe got a couple of more swing and misses. But when he's seen it the second time around, and he's not throwing that kick change, it kind of eliminates the surprise pitch. And that's why I'm a little worried why he isn't throwing it for whatever reason. Maybe he's in the bullpen and he doesn't have the right feel for it, but you still got to throw it. You got to, change it up. You got to put a little doubt in the batter's mind. But we'll see. I think the fact that I said this from the day one, once we signed him and when we figured out he was going to be a starter, I think he's eventually going to go into the bullpen. I don't think the stamina is going to be there for him. And it's shown through 2 games. It seemed like he struggles. Once he gets into the 4th inning, he struggles. And or at least he looks like even though he had a good 4th inning, going into the 5th inning, I apologize for that. It seems like he loses a ton of gas. And maybe he'll learn to use his energy wisely, but you can't have 30 pitch innings and expect to be in a ball game long. So we'll see. There's a long way to go for that, but let's hope, because we're going to need him until Manaea comes back at the very least.
100%. Shout out to Jay as well with the super chat 199 www.LGM. You both rock. Love the channel. Thank you, Jay, so much for the super chat as well. It is definitely appreciated. You rock as well. Thank you for rocking with us. It means a lot. So let's move on a little bit. We will talk about the man of the hour, right? Because I do, for all the Pete Alonso naysayers, we'll talk about Pete Alonso. We'll get to him. We'll get to him.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
I put the live chat poll in my stream right now, and I said, who's the player of the game, Pete Alonso or Pete Alonso ×2? I should have put some respect on Luis Torrens' name, but it has to be Pete Alonso.
Or number 2.
Listen, the bullpen has been really solid outside of Danny Young, clearly. But Reed Garrett, another scoreless, almost 2 innings. I believe he goes 1 1/3, 1 2/3 innings, scoreless. Reed Garrett looks awesome so far to begin the season. AJ Minter comes in, has a little bit of trouble, a little bit of a weird play when AJ Minter was, out there as well, with Mark Vientos, kind of misjudging the baseball. He kind of caught it, and I see why he caught it right on that line, the foul line. It was a fair ball. He should have probably let it go, as the broadcast was saying, but he was already so far up the foul line, like going towards his momentum towards home plate, that if he lets that go and there's nobody behind him, I mean, that's an easy double getting down the line. So you have to just trust that Francisco Lindor is back there, backing you up at third base and moving in that direction. But again, another misjudged play by Mark Vientos, and he did have a very struggle-filled game from the plate and from third base. I guess if you want to talk about the bullpen, and if you want to talk about Mark Vientos in particular with some of the defensive stuff, go ahead and do so. But the one guy that I definitely need to shout out here is Huascar Brazaban.
Yeah.
Huascar Brazaban is off to a hell of a start. For the third time that I'm saying this, I've always been, again, a fan of Huascar Brazaban, but he was a fringe roster guy. For him to be making this kind of contribution early on in the season means the world to the New York Mets bullpen. It means the world. Because, again, you have a guy like Daniel Nunez, who's not even on this roster as of yet, as he gets his bearings together in the minor leagues, right? To start his season off, still trying to recover from a little bit of an injury. Now, the clear DFA or the clear let go, because I think Danny Young still has an option left on his contract, or actually maybe he doesn't, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think
I
he
don't even
does.
think it matters.
So he's going to, and it doesn't matter. He's going to get DFA'd, and the Mets are going to roll with one lefty in the pen, and that's going to be AJ Minter. Because of any guy in this bullpen, you got to let Danny Young go. This guy is just not getting the job done. What did you make of the decision, first and foremost, to start that inning off in that last inning with Danny Young instead of Huascar Brazaban? I understand that there are some matchup-based analytical stuff that you can look at and be like, okay, maybe Danny Young is the better play. But again, when you've already assessed that Danny Young struggled in his first outing in this series, and I get that he had a nice appearance in Houston. I understand all of that, right? I don't know. It's kind of like we're flipping back and forth, because in Houston in game 3, it's like, why is Danny Young in the game for Yordan Alvarez? And now I'm kind of complaining about, Danny Young being in the game, when it kind of matters. So I understand that I'm kind of going back on that, but this is why Carlos Mendoza's job is so tough. I get the decision. What did you think of it? And also just talk about Mark Vientos real quick. I'm very curious to get your thoughts on him. Just absolutely struggling both defensively in this game and also offensively. He looks a little bit lost.
Yeah. So why was the confidence level so high personally for Vientos? Because of his offense that he's shown last year. And I think he thrives, and his confidence relies on his offense. And I think he's letting it get to him, and it's creeping up onto the field. Remember, we talked about this with Pete Alonso last year, where the offense started to get into his head, and he started to take it onto the field. And I think that's something that Vientos is doing right now. Let's hope he breaks out of it, because the Mets don't have a lot of places to turn right at the moment. Maybe Jet Williams, maybe Mauricio in a month, but Vientos is the guy. I don't think they're going to mess with Vientos right now. What I would do, and this is a little crazy, somebody brought this up on X or maybe one of my group chats, that maybe you DH Vientos for a game and throw Baty at third. I know we don't want to see Baty, but the only reason why is just to get him off the field and let him focus on hitting, because once he's hitting, it seems like that confidence level will take back up and it takes it back onto the field. So I'm a little shocked about Vientos, because I thought his confidence was just spilling out of him in spring training, and I didn't think he was going to have this quote unquote sophomore slump. But right now, it's more than a slump. It's terrible. I mean, it's not good at all. And you can't have your defense be bad, especially in the infield, when the majority of your starters are ground ball pitchers. You need the defense to be solid. So look, he hasn't been good. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, because it is only 6 games. The first at bat of the game, I thought he crushed that ball. So I think that kind of took the air of confidence out of him. Like, oh man, what the hell do I have to do since he's been struggling? But overall, I wouldn't be shocked if you don't see him at third base on opening day. He'll be DHing, but we will see. When it comes to the Danny Young situation, I went to my dad. I go, wait a second. I'm like, is Brazaben okay? Because I thought he wasn't available. That's why I thought they went to Danny Young. Because it's not like there was lefties through the board. It was only lefties he faced later in the inning because he put people on and they got a couple of hits. So I thought Brazaban wasn't available. That's why I was like, well, Brazaban makes more sense. Danny Young is like should be the last guy out of the bullpen in that spot. Like if it gets to the 14th inning, all right, you got to deal with Danny Young and you hope for the best. But I thought that was a bad move by Mendoza. He got saved by Brazaban. But, little credit to Danny Young. He did strike out his last batter, which was crucial before they brought in Brazaban. I know that's not a great, victory here, but that was the first out of the inning. So it was
and it was against Griffin Conine too, lefty, which is again,
yep.
This so like that's Danny Young in a nutshell. Like he's tough on lefties, especially with that slider that kind of just moves away from them into the other batter's box. And he made Griffin Conine look silly. And there was some chatter about that strikeout pitch actually being a balk. If you go back and look closely, I didn't see it while it was live. It looked like maybe he kind of started a little bit. I got to go back and watch the replay, but clearly the umpires didn't see it either.
He did kind of let it go, but it was kind of like he was like hanging on for dear life, like grazing the grass and flipped it. But I mean, it's hard to overturn that. But and before we move on, Ken brought up a good point that Mendoza, we talked about the little thing about Mendoza that has been a problem. I mean, he had a little bit of last year is bullpen management. I think he is still trying to feel his way through his management of a bullpen. It hasn't been terrible, but I feel like there's certain times where like even early on this season, you question leaving in Budo at third inning. Why would you bring in this guy? Why would you take out, why would you take out this guy earlier? So far, I'm a little worried with the bullpen management with Mendoza. I'm not saying it's going to cost us. I think he cost us opening day with Budo for 3 innings. I think that wasn't good, even though he didn't have a high pitch count. But I'm not going to go crazy, but it does need to get a little bit better. Like there was no need for Danny Young to be in that game when you have Brazaban available, because I just thought he wasn't available, Chris.
Sure. Yeah. And that's something that, again, I think that as these players get adjusted, Carlos Mendoza also with a little bit of newer personnel. I mean, mostly similar bullpen, but you do have a couple of new faces and trying to work them in and just trying to figure out how that all works out, who's available, who's not. I think Carlos Mendoza will get the hang of it. And again, there has been stuff that we've obviously pointed out where we're like, okay, maybe there was a different decision to be had there. But again, a little bit of nitpicking, maybe. The Mets win.
Yeah.
That's all that matters. We love the win. This is the box score, by the way. It's taken me this long, 25 minutes almost into the stream to put the box score up. But that's Clay Holmes' final line, 4 2/3 innings pitch, 85 pitches before he got pulled in favor of Reed Garrett. 2 runs given up, one of which was an earned run. 2 walks, which is good to see because, again, we talk about the 5 free passes that he gave up in Houston. 2 walks only is a win, I would say, with the 6 strikeouts. So we've talked about the pitching. We got to talk about the offense now. There's your box score, top to bottom from Lindor all the way down. And if you can't tell, if it doesn't pop out at the screen, enough right now, Pete Alonso was the man of this game through and through, got the offense going, got them back into the ball game after they were down 4-1 with a huge 2-out, 3-run home run, dead center field. It was a missile off of Pete Alonso's bat. When we talk about Pete Alonso and the lack of game-changing or game takeovers that he had last year, this is the Pete Alonso that we all remembered from, let's say, 2022, right? This is the Pete Alonso that we remembered. Just absolute rockets off of his bat all game long.
Yep.
And even his lone out was also just very well struck. He was locked in and he got it going with an RBI double the opposite way We saw the grand slam in game 1 coming the opposite way out of Pete Alonso. He scores Juan Soto for the first run of the ball game. Awesome to see, but he was just so locked in. He hits another leadoff double, in the third or fourth inning. I forgot what inning it was, and they strand him. The Mets left a ton of runners on base yet again, a ton. And I forgot what their actual runners in scoring position number was. It was 0 for 7 going into the later innings, which is absolutely brutal. But that needs to change clearly. But Pete Alonso, talk about putting a team on your back.
Yeah.
That's what he did today. So shout out to Pete Alonso. All the credit in the world to Pete Alonso. We have both been critical of Pete Alonso in the past. Maybe you a little bit more than me, but I will say I've also pointed out his flaws my fair share of times as well, and with every right, because he did not perform up to expectations last season. I think that we are embarking on a journey this season where Pete Alonso understands the pressure that comes in a contract situation and a contract year that he went through last year, and he talked about it as well. They talked about it on the broadcast. He's in another contract year because he wants to opt out after this year, ideally. And his OPS is above 1,000 at this point of the season. He's up near 300. I understand it's only 6 games in, small sample size, but this is a very big boast of confidence to this Mets lineup with the guy directly hitting behind Juan Soto. This is what you need. And by the way, that at bat where he hit the 3-run home run, it was like a 9-pitch at bat, fouled some pitches off. The opposing pitcher, I forgot the guy's name. Again, do we even know many of these Marlins pitchers? Because I don't. I can't remember their names. I think Tyler Phillips was the guy that impressed me, and everybody else was like, okay, who is this guy, right? Gillespie actually was pretty good, to be honest. To be fair to him, he was actually really good to start the game off. But there was so many mistake pitches in that at-bat that pitcher threw to Pete Alonso that he just barely missed and fouled off. And what they were trying to do is go off-speed away to try to get him to chase. That wasn't working. And then they were trying to go in back inside and jam him with the fastball. Well, the fastball that they were meaning to go inside on with Pete Alonso ended up being middle, and it ended up being, they paid the ultimate price for that. So, Rob, take us through just the box score, Pete Alonso, anything you want to talk about this offense, and also huge congratulations to Hayden Singer as well for his first career hit. It was a nice double to the opposite field way as well. Love to see that.
Yeah, Pete Alonso set up the pitcher perfectly. I don't know who was pitching, but it really doesn't matter. But it was just perfect. And what we talked about in the pregame is exactly what Pete Alonso did this entire game. His approach to at-bats now is completely different from last year, where he would, just completely whiff on those pitches on the outside corner. He would easily struck out in this at-bat last year, easily. But what did he do? You could see that he wasn't trying to do too much. Even the pitches that were really good pitches, fouling them off, taking them, fouling the pitches off that were tough pitches, but waited to get his pitch. And when he got it, he didn't miss it. Again, he had opportunities the same way last year, but now with the new approach of not trying to do too much and not afraid to go the other way, he just executed. And he's been executing in this game over and over and over again. This was his best game of the year. I mean, it's not a long season, but it is. But his approach is what is getting us excited about Pete Alonso, because all you need now is you need a little bit of proof. You need a little bit of evidence. Let's see it. Let's see you come through. And he sure as hell did, right? Put the team on his back today, and that's what we needed. That's exactly what we needed, right? Everybody, Lindor's not going to do it all the time. Soto's not going to do it all the time. Alonso's not going to do it all the time, but you need at times guys to put the team on his back, and he did today. And again, the approach is really, really nice, and the execution was there. And it has been a little slightly off, but you could see this is 2022 version of Pete Alonso. If you go back, I'm not even going to go back to 2019. 2022 version of Pete Alonso is exactly what we're seeing right now. Going the other way, driving the ball the other way, taking his walks, fighting off pitches. That is 2022 Pete Alonso. And if you can get a 2022 Pete Alonso, that is MVP caliber type Pete Alonso. And I'm not sure that anybody would give Pete Alonso the MVP, but he needs to continue to do what he's been doing. The approach has been excellent. The execution, I think, is going to be there. We all believe he's going to be having a bounce back year. And let's hope he does it, because listen, the last thing I want is to be right. I want to be very, very wrong. And Joel said it in the chat. I want him to shut me up. He shut me up in the playoffs. Shut me up now, right? You need to get through a whole season of a Pete Alonso type of season. Like, shut me up, because I want to be shut up, because that's only going to make the Mets better, Chris.
Absolutely. Shout out to Darren as well for the super chat as well. Shout out to Stan from Westport for having faith Mets would win when most of us at Hector Blunt Thoughts watch party had our doubts. And honestly, with every reason, because, you know, in the middle stages of that game before Pete Alonso came up, I was like, it's going to take a miracle to score 1 run, let alone 3 runs. And Pete Alonso had the Mets, you know, on his back. It was like, I'm going to do it with 1 swing of the bat. Just you watch. And this is another good point by Darren that I want to go ahead and point out, because it is absolutely 100% true. Pete picked up Juan Soto today. Juan Soto did not have his best game. He did not look, you know, his best at the plate. Juan Soto, up until this point in this game, has looked very locked in at the plate, and he didn't today. You know, he got a base hit in his first at bat, I believe. He got robbed of a hit up the middle as well by a great play from the shortstop. But you can just tell on some of those changeups, especially today, Juan Soto did not have it. He beat a couple of balls into the ground, just very uncharacteristic in terms of how he actually looked. Very jumpy. Yeah. But Pete Alonso, you know, after Juan Soto didn't get the job done, Pete Alonso was like, listen, this is why you got to trust me. You know what I mean? That game in Houston where you swung at that pitch in the other batter's box when I was supposed to come up and be the hero, you got to trust me, because Pete Alonso can be a hero. He really is like that. I'm going to just say it one more time. Pete Alonso is like that. And I think that a lot of Mets fans have forgotten about that. But Pete Alonso, when he is in his truest form, hitting to all fields, as we saw today, as we've seen this entire season up until this point in Game 6, he's really like that. And I think that this team, this fan base in general as well, just needs to have faith in him. And it was really nice to see. Juan Soto not having his best game, no problem. Pete Alonso comes up and gets the job done.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it just, look, this is why the lineup is supposed to be so good, right? When one guy doesn't have it, the next guy needs to step up. 1 through 5 should have no problem doing that. And, you know, you're going to have struggles throughout the season. You need somebody else to pick you up, right? Juan Soto was doing that, you know, the first couple of games. Pete Alonso definitely did it today with a vengeance. You know, the other day, you know, I mean, Luis Torrens did it the other day. You seen Starler Marte do it the other day. That's what this team needs to do. You got to pick up your other stars on this team, because you're all not going to, you know, it would be great if they're all hot at the same time, but it's baseball. We know that's not really possible. I mean, it is possible, but, you know, unless you're a video game like the Los Angeles Dodgers, you're going to have struggles throughout the game, throughout the season, and you just hope 1 or 2 of those guys at any given moment can be hot at the same time, and that's when an offense takes off. Because, again, you remember last year when Lindor started to get hot, Brendan Nimmo started to get hot, and both of those were basically taking the team to the stratosphere. Even when Pete Alonso was struggling and others were struggling in the lineup, they took those guys until everybody else started to come around with them. That's what I think is going to be here with this team. It's just that you have a little bit more depth. And if Vientos starts to get going, hopefully he gets right, then you can talk about, you know, 1 or 2 guys getting the job done and doing what they need to do to pick up the other guys in the lineup. And Pete definitely did that today, the entire team.
100%, 100%, 1,000%. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Mets post-game show, 35 minutes into this stream, going over the X's and O's, recapping this game. It's a series victory, the first series victory for our New York Mets of the 2025 season. We love Mets victories. We spam W's. We have a good time in the chat. The chat is uplifting, it's vibrant, and it's awesome. And there's a lot that went wrong in this game for the New York Mets, but they were able to overcome it. And that's a testament to, Pete Alonso coming through, the veterans coming through, and just the overall grit of this team. And again, when we talk about veterans, and special shout out to our president of baseball operations for acquiring this guy last season. Luis Torrens coming into the ball game and making an immediate impact. I mean, not only with his opposite field hit, as he continues to hit this season, but also defensively. That play, and we got to talk about Brett Baty. We'll talk about him here in just a second. But again, that play where Brett Baty had a gimme play, throwing it home. All he had to do was center it up to Luis Torrens or throw it a little bit more to his left-handed glove side to get the runner out. Instead, he throws it with the infield in a crucial situation because that was going to be the go-ahead run at the time for the Marlins. Yeah. Right after Pete Alonso had tied up the ball game in the last half inning, Brett Baty throws it to the right-hand side, non-glove side of Luis Torrens. Luis Torrens has to reach all the way back around to get the tag on a very speedy runner, and he gets the job done. And oh, by the way, he also throws out another runner from his knees. I mean, he's doing it all defensively, and, you know, he has been just a breath of fresh air. Again, when Francisco Alvarez goes down, your starting catcher goes down, a lot of people start to panic. A lot of teams start to panic. Oh, wow, what kind of production are we going to get? Luis Torrens is there to save the day, offensively and defensively. I mean, I cannot speak highly or more highly of Luis Torrens than I'm doing right now. And again, credit to David Stearns. What an immaculate find for very cheap, for basically nothing in terms of that trade and bringing him over from the Yankees organization into Queens and the New York Mets. So, again, before we talk about Brett Baty and then the upcoming game, upcoming series, you know, Luis Torrens, we got to shout him out, man. We got to shout him out.
Yeah, he's been awesome. Again, we weren't panicking at all when Alvarez got hurt, right? We were hoping Alvarez would be healthy and bounce back, but we talked about it. Luis Torrens, I mean, he filled in perfectly. One, like I'm not even talking about his bat yet. The defense and the arm and throwing runners out. Like the Marlins are a speedy team. They weren't trying to run as much as they probably could have. And just think, Luis Torrens wouldn't have been in that game if Mendoza didn't make that decision. He could have easily left Sanger in that game as catcher, but decided to put Luis Torrens in, and it changed the game. Luis Torrens actually got on base at that point too, and it started the inning, and it helped Pete Alonso do what he did. So it is amazing that little moves can make so much of an impact to a team. It all started last year when Luis Torrens got that start in London and made that awesome play to end the game against the Phillies. And it trickled down, and he just was an awesome backup catcher. And it was a great, I think it was cash considerations to the Yankees. It's the little moves. It's the Jose Iglesias move, minor league deal. It's the Torrens move. These little deals are impressive. But you also got to give kudos to Mendoza, even though the bullpen management is a little worrisome. He made a good move by putting Luis Torrens in the game late in the game, and it actually helped the Mets win a ball game. And what's with the Mets infielders that can't throw the ball home? I mean, how many times do I have to have shades of Lucas Duda in the World Series?
Like Jesus Christ. He did it perfectly.
Yeah. Lindor on the run, no less. Mm-hmm. Vientos pivoted, planted his feet, and he threw it 20 feet up in the air. Baty, I don't know what the hell he was trying to do. He set his feet too. Like, can we get these guys in, like, the PFP drills? We need some infield drills throwing the ball home. We really need to do that, because I don't need more flashbacks of that. It's amazing to me that a simple throw at a home plate is so hard. Like, you guys have been doing this all your life. Why is it so hard? And they had time. It wasn't a rush situation. Both of these guys had time, and they completely blew it. But thank God for Luis Torrens being athletic and being, a badass behind the plate, because, I mean, he saved the game. I mean, we could have been talking about the Mets, 2-4. And, going back home, with their tail between their legs, losing a series against the Marlins. But Luis Torrens was part of the win today, and thank God we have him. I'll tell you that.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, there was just a lot of opportunities for the Mets to lose this ball game. I mean, through and through, even in extra innings, they could have put up a ton of more runs than they actually did with the 2 runs that they got, which ended up being enough, but, it almost wasn't. And so we could be harping on a lot more stuff, but again, we're not going to do so because it's a victory. But there was just a ton more opportunities left out there on the base paths. But let's talk about Brett Baty, man. We got to talk about Brett Baty with as hot of a topic as this was coming out of spring training. I don't want to kick Baty while he's down, but he's just not producing, Rob. He's just not producing. You know, he was getting nice lift on the baseball in spring training. Everything was going great. He was putting the ball, in the gaps, over the fence. It was awesome. And now it seems like we've reverted back to old Brett Baty ways in terms of the ground ball rate. I mean, if it's not a strikeout, every other contact, point that I see from Brett Baty is just ground balls.
Yeah.
And it's not doing the Mets any justice, to be honest with you. And I understand that the whole entirety of this Mets lineup is struggling, essentially, outside of maybe Juan Soto before this game and Pete Alonso. But, it's a shame because, Acuna and Baty, someone were like, please just win this job. Let's see what you got until McNeil gets back. And nobody wants to do it. And I mean, Luis Angel Acuna, that I'm going to choose him over Baty every time, but it's not like he's looked even stellar. He came into the ball game today, grounded into a double play, which is crazy given his speed. It was third to home.
Yeah.
First, that's an unusual double play to be had against a speedy runner in extra innings. So I don't know what's going on with the second base situation, but again, Brett Baty just has not been up to the task.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say I told you so, but I've always had my reservations and my doubts that he was going to be this brand new ball player after this spring training, when we've seen that version from Brett Baty before after a great spring training and just reverting back to old ways when he gets on the major league diamond. So it is only 6 games at the end of the day, and I understand that, but there's got to be a limit in terms of how far the Mets are willing to go to keep giving him opportunities, because now you're talking about a situation, if he continues down this path, that there's a viable chance that he just gets sent down. There's no room for him on the roster anymore once McNeil gets back. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, McNeil's a lefty. So you just be swapping a lefty with a lefty at that point. I don't know. Where are you at with Brett Baty?
He can't hit major league pitching. Like, I mean, and that's, I could see it. Okay, Houston, they got good pitchers. They got, good relievers, good starters. So, all right, tough pitchers in Houston. Half of these guys are fringe minor leaguer pitchers that Baty's facing. Like, when he gets to the majors, he has a mental block. There's something like he's jumpy at the plate. Like, you've seen the balance, and I talked about this during spring training. You see the balance at the plate in spring training, right? He's got really good balance, and that was the difference. He changed up his stance. And then when the light shines bright and he hits major league pitching or goes against major league pitching, he gets jumpy. He's not balanced at the plate, and he just looks bad. And you know what? We're going to have to deal with him because nobody else is coming up and replacing Baty until Jeff McNeil comes back, whenever that might be. I still think it's probably going to be closer to the end of the month that you see Jeff McNeil. So I think Baty's going to be on this team. How much playing time is he going to get? I think he's going to get more than enough, to be quite honest with you, because it's not like Luis Angel Acuna is doing great. Like, Baty's losing the job again. And it's not like Acuna is winning the job. It's just that I'd rather have the better defender at the plate. And hopefully you get some offense out of Acuna, which, at least Acuna swings the bat and put some lift on the ball. And you can get a ground ball and you can see Acuna beating it out. Like, I think that's the difference at the moment. Not that Acuna is winning it. It's just that Baty is just terrible.
That's something that I wanted to mention as well in terms of a Mendoza decision, that I was kind of just like wondering in terms of if he was going to make the move before the half inning actually started. And again, it's nitpicking, but just, food for thought here. After Brett Baty's last at bat, right, somewhere in the middle or the later stage of that game, before the half inning where he made that terrible throw that Torrens saved him on the video review, which I still don't know how got overturned. I think he was definitely out, but usually with the MLB replay system, they are very big sticklers of having enough evidence and more evidence than not. So I was fully prepared, even though I think that he was out objectively, for them to just be like, the call stands as being safe. I'm surprised that Mendoza didn't make a late game defensive substitution with Acuna being the better defender and having him throw the baseball to Torrens. You can't foresee that happening, that situation happening, but I'm just surprised because I think that you always should go with the better defender, and you're not with Baty's offense, you're not really losing much from the offensive standpoint if his name comes back around in the batting order. So I don't know. I would have made the late game defensive substitution to not even give Baty that chance to be the one throwing that ball to home plate, but it ends up working out in the Mets' favor. But just something to keep an eye out on until McNeil gets back. If those guys are platooning and Brett Baty gets the start later on in the ball game, there has to be potentially a thought in the back of Carlos Mendoza's mind, hey, maybe I should make this defensive substitution.
Yeah, that was interesting. I'm not sure why. Again, I'm not sure what they're trying to do with Luis Acuna and Brett Baty. The matchups has gone out the window. I don't know if it's numbers. They talked about on the broadcast about swing angles of why they put guys in a lineup against certain pitchers. Like I don't know the reasoning for putting with Acuna and Baty anymore. I don't know if it's just different numbers that don't really have to do much with the matchup. I don't know anymore, but Baty's just playing himself out of our starting role, and at this point, you have to play Acuna, right? I just feel like the defense is going to be better, and you just hope Acuna hits, because he hasn't been hitting the ball over the. I like that he still swings for the fences, and I don't like that, but at least when he hits the ball, there's a little bit of pop in there, and you see the ball jump off the bat. Brett Baty, it just feels like the balloon goes out of the balloon just loses its air when he hits the ball, and it looks like a wiffle ball when he hits it, and that's if he does hit it. So we'll see how it goes, but Brady's going to be on this team until Jeff McNeil is healthy.
I see some people talking about Nolan Arenado in this chat, and I'm just having myself a chuckle because I'm like, yeah. I was a big proponent of it.
Oh, wait. So wait, you same Met fans that want these young kids to play, now you want a proven player?
Well, the thing is that nobody's playing no. That's the different situation because Arenado would have just been playing third base.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. So they're giving up on Vientos. They're talking about Arenado.
No, he would have been DHing, which I was always fine with. I don't know. It's a side comment because everyone knows in this chat that I was always a big proponent of Nolan Arenado, and people are telling me that he's washed, and here he is starting the season off batting 350. And I'm like, this guy's not washed. He's still got stuff in the tank, and you could have had him for a little bit cheap because the Cardinals really wanted to trade him. But what do I know? Maybe that's a trade that let's explore later. I don't know. But listen, I just saw the comment from I think it was Thor, and I had to chuckle a little bit because again, you talk about Gold Glovers. I mean, take a look at the defense that the Mets played today. That helps you sometimes. So, but yeah, that's a side conversation. We can revisit that. Before we talk about this upcoming game, and we're finally heading back home to Citi Field. Finally, thank goodness. First 6 games on the road. Finally heading back home after the off day. And I think that's why, Luis Torrens was able to get in the ballgame as well, is that, Mendoza knew in the back of his mind that there's an off day tomorrow. So no harm, no foul. And by the way, did you see Garrett Crochet extension? I know you're a big Garrett Crochet guy. And guess what he ends up doing today in his first start since the extension?
Well, I didn't even see it, to be honest with you.
8 scoreless innings.
God.
Against the O's.
Yeah. Please tell me who you wouldn't want to give up for him. Yeah. The Red Sox couldn't wait to sign him. Couldn't wait to sign him.
For a bargain of a deal, not even 30 mil.
But
not even 30 mil a year.
That's why you trade for a pitcher like that, regardless of who it is. Because of the fact that he's young, you can get him for a really good deal. And it's not a lot of money. It's not. I'm telling you guys, we're going to have to give up more prospects for probably a lesser pitcher. I'm telling you.
Not this conversation. We can't open this can of worms just yet.
I can't wait to prove everybody wrong in the chat.
That was a home run move, though, by the Red Sox for sure. So shout out to them. I mean, something's going to have to give over there with Devers because
the Mets are more set up to make a trade like that for a starting pitcher than the Red Sox were, who were still kind of in limbo with their roster, and they still got Garrett Crochet. Like the Mets, you could say they were more in win mode than the Red Sox were until they eventually got Bregman and all that stuff. But
Sure.
that hopefully we don't regret it. Again, he's in the American League, so let him destroy the Yankees. But other than that, listen, at some point the Mets got to make a decision here, right? I still don't believe the starting pitching is going to hold up, and with the Sean Manaea issue right now and getting a setback, who knows if he's ever going to come back right now? Like, I mean, I'm not even counting on him coming back. Like, I don't think
He'll be
he can.
back. He'll be back.
Obliques are tricky, man. I said that from the jump, and I'm telling you, changing his throwing mechanism approach and just
motion
and all that. It fucks with the body. It really does, especially when you try to replicate it and you never done it in your career. Your body has to get adjusted, and it might take a full year for him to get adjusted. And when your body goes through a year like he did with all those innings and the new mechanics, it can definitely be a problem. And I hope he comes back. Listen, we're gonna need him, but
absolutely
level. I don't know, man. Hopefully he does, though.
I did make a typo here. Thank you, Paul, for pointing this out. The next game is on Friday, not Thursday. Tomorrow is the off day, but it is April 3rd tomorrow. So the next game is Friday, April 4th in New York. Thank goodness. How's the weather looking like? Because I'm hearing there's going to be some rain.
Rain every day.
So
50 to 60% chance. So it's going to be shitty. Cold and rainy. Makes me not want to go.
Well, it's typical. That's typical for, for the New York Mets in April at this point. So maybe some off days will be good, though. I mean, not for us. It's a good thing. Like, imagine we ended today with a loss and we had to sit with no Mets baseball for like the next 3 or 4 days. That would have stung. That would have stung.
Would have been fun, though.
Oh goodness, yeah, I guess so. I guess so with the raging. But listen, the next game, Tyler McGill versus Kevin Gausman, whenever that game is played, if it is played, not really sure what the off days are looking like. Let me just actually check ESPN or the MLB app real quick about the actual schedule, because I'm curious what would happen Friday. So this series would be to Sunday, right?
Yep, it's 6-game homestand, and then they head off to Sacramento.
Ooh, are they lined up against Sevy?
Probably.
Sacramento's an interesting team. So who do they play? Who are they facing after Miami again? Okay, so it'd be Miami again.
Yeah, and then they have another off day on the 10th, and then they don't have an off day for 2 weeks.
Okay.
So,
yeah. So I mean, if there's two postponements in this series, they're kind of screwed until later on this season for a makeup date.
Yeah.
So. All right. Well, listen, the Blue Jays, they don't really impress me, to be honest with you. I think Vlad Guerrero, they're saying on the broadcast, has gotten off to a little bit of a slow start. I do think they just either swept or won the series against the Washington Nationals. I don't know. I don't pay attention to much American League baseball. I'm not gonna lie to you, but this is another team that the Mets theoretically should beat up on, right? Not beat up on, but they should win the series against. But it was a tough task against the Marlins, so it's anybody's guess what happens. Tyler McGill is on the mound versus Kevin Gausman. Some quick thoughts about this upcoming series if it actually happens before we hop on out of here on this post game.
Well, McGill gets another home opener. He just finds his way in there, but he pitched well his last time out. I want to see it again. All right. I don't think the Blue Jays lineup is better than the Astros lineup, and he did well against the Astros lineup. I need another 5 innings, 3 runs or less, and give it to the bullpen. And the Mets need to score. Kevin Gausman, if I'm not mistaken, coming back from injury from last year, you got to jump in these guys, right? Their rotation looks good on paper, but in reality, it's not that good. And they've been struggling their pitching. So get the job done. You're home finally. You're going to have, I know the rain is going to cause havoc with some fans, but they're going to try to get those games in, especially at a home opener. Score some damn runs, right? You scored 6 today. It wasn't pretty. 4 came on one swing and a bat with Pete Alonso. but you gotta score runs, right? This is the first time they gave up more than 4 runs. Again, extra innings, so it's a little, skewed a little bit. But you see what happens when you still give your team a chance to win. You were down by 3 runs, but the bullpen came in. When the bullpen holds you down and still gives you an opportunity, this is what the offense needs to do. Hopefully, we don't have to get to this point the way it was today, but the offense needs to come alive. Alonso's alive, and somebody else needs to step up here and, carry the team along with Alonso. But let's get home on Friday, and hopefully we get games in and the rain don't screw up the games, and we're ready to go.
100%. So an off day tomorrow. TBD on a show or stream, Mets off day stream from either of us. So hit the notifications buttons on our channels to get notified when we drop a video or go live. This is the Mets postgame show. Again, just honest analysis on the X's and O's, both the positives and the negatives. There are plenty of negatives in this game for the New York Mets, but the positives just were able to outweigh the negatives in resulting in a 6-5 victory in Miami against the Marlins for the series win. Now headed back to Queens. Citi Field home opener. Hopefully the rain doesn't mess it up on Friday with Tyler McGill on the mound. Final thoughts here, Rob, before I hop on out of here, and I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day.
Yeah, we pulled that win out at the skin of our teeth, but we did win a series first of the year. Let's see what happens with the question at second base. Is Baty going to get more playing? Is still going to be playing? Or is Acuna just going to get the job and see what happens from there? And Vientos, very interested to see the opening day lineup, if he's going to even play on in the home opener. But I would be shocked if he's out of the field and DHing. So that's just my final thoughts. We're 500 going back home. Let's get some W's. Let's get some more W's at home.
Let's get some W's. We appreciate all the support, all the super chats, all the comments, all the thumbs ups. If you haven't smashed the thumbs up already, if you forgot to do so, honest mistake, I get it. Smash those thumbs up buttons. We definitely appreciate that. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you watch this on replay, if you haven't subscribed yet, or if you have any family, friends, acquaintances, I don't care what they are, if they're Mets fans, and if they want to talk New York Mets baseball, point them over to our channels. We talk Mets baseball almost every single day, whether it's pre-games, post-games, everything in between on the off day. Appreciate you all being here. Again, let's go Mets. Even 500, headed back home. Peace.
Let's go Mets.